Hello. Okay, so today we are going to discuss about defect life cycle, also called as bug life cycle. Okay, so in my previous class we have discussed about two different life cycles. One is SDLC life cycle, another one is STLC life cycle. SDLC is the life cycle which is related to development activities. STLC is the life cycle which is related to testing activities. Okay, so in STLC we have seen one particular stage called defect reporting, right? So this particular cycle which we are going to discuss today, this particular life cycle is belongs to defect reporting stage in STLC. Okay, what all points we are going to discuss today? What is defect, defect life cycle chart, severity, priority, and some of the very important questions, interview questions and answers. Fine. Okay. So, so let us start defect life cycle or bug life cycle. Okay. Before starting, what is life cycle? Let us understand the what is defect. Okay. What do you mean by defect? Defect in a software is nothing but while executing the test cases, you may find the actual results vary from the expected result. This is nothing but a defect. It's also called as defect, bug, also called as incident, problem, issues. So, defect, bug, incident, problem, and issues. These are the common terminologies we would hear in the software testing industry. Okay, if you take one company like Infosys, they make use oftenly bug. In some company, if you go to Mindtree, they may use incident. So these names all are same. Okay, so it depends on the companies, that depends on the practice they would use it. But defect, bug, incident, problem, or issues all are one and the same. Okay, so we have understood the meaning of defect. That means, while testing the particular software, what do we do? What we know that to test the software, what we have to do to execute the test cases. Test case is a document which will be having the steps to perform a particular functionality along with expected and actual result, right? So while executing the test cases, if you find deviation between these two sections, expected, what you are expecting and what actually is happening, so that particular deviation is called as defect. Okay, fine. While testing the software, if you find defects, what he has to do? Okay, the question is what a tester should do when he finds a defect. Okay, so this is very important question. Okay, what he has to do, he has to take very important step is retest the functionality. The functionality which is giving the defect. Okay, retest that particular functionality to make sure that the same defect can be simulated. Okay, you retest it as soon as, for example, a particular tester, he is testing his software, so he got a defect. Okay, when he got a defect, so he has to reconfirm it, right, by retesting it. So retest it. Okay, retest it, and second time also, if you're getting the same defect, oftenly, consistently, if that particular defect is coming, then you go for the report. Okay, fine. Okay, what he has to do? So retest the functionality to make sure the same defect can be simulated. Okay, if he's able to simulate, note down the steps and report as a defect to developer. Correct, right? Fine. There is another negative scenario if the defect is not able to simulate. That means you are, for example, you are trying to log in into an application. Okay, for example, you are trying to log in into an application. Okay, so Here, actually, it was giving problem. You are not able to log in. It was giving some error page. Okay. Then you are retesting the same functionality to make sure that, but second time you are able to log in. That means you are not able to simulate it. Then again and again you try. If not able to simulate, then also just no tone and report to the developer as a defect with the inconsistent defect. That means you are while testing this particular defect is not able to simulate. Okay, so consistent defect and inconsistent defect. Consistent defect nothing but the defect which is oftenly able to simulate. Okay, that we call it as consistent defect. Inconsistent defect, one time you got it but second time onwards you are not able to proceed it. It's called as inconsistent defect. Okay, fine. So we have understood that what is defect and what is what as a tester, what steps we have to take. Okay, so I was keep telling that, right? So when you get defect, just you have to report that to the developer. Okay, how do we report? What are common information reporting while sending particular defect information to the developer? What all information should be conveyed to the developer is very important. Okay, so for example, you got a defect. So simply you're sending mail, I got a defect in so and so module, please fix it. How do you do that? It's not possible, right? Systematically we should handle that, because in a real time while testing a software there could be more than one tester, more than two testers, correct, right? So we got the build and we are testing for a particular period. When we get the defect, we should report and store in one particular place. Okay, later as a bunch, when we stop the particular build testing, when we close the testing on particular build, then at the end of the build closing, testing closing, just send those defects to the developer. Okay, fine. So what are information should be conveyed to the developer? So this defect ID, a unique identification number of a defect. Okay, defect ID is very important. For example, so you got a defect, login. So ID is equal to defect is equal to 1001. So this particular ID is unique to the particular login defect. Fine. Okay. So next, defect description. Detailed steps of the defect including information about the module in which defect was found. Okay, where while doing testing of particular module, while performing particular test scenario, you might have got defect, right? That particular steps, that particular module information, that particular functionality information and steps to simulate, to reproduce the defect, you have to give. That will be under defect description and version of the application in which defects are found. I told you, right? We know that the whole functionality, whole big functionality of the application will be developing part by part. Those parts will be released to the testing for a testing as a build, correct, right? So on which version of the build application in which defect was found, that information also very important. And steps, as I said, steps to simulate the defect, and if there are any screenshot you have taken, even you can send that. Date raised. When you have rise nothing but when you are rising, reporting that particular defect, that particular date. And reference. Okay, reference nothing but we have understood the traceability matrix, right? There we give the test case reference with the requirement. In between, lot of other documents would come. Okay, requirement, designer, architecture, all other documents, right? Here also you can mention that particular defect belongs to which design document, belongs to which architecture design document, and belongs to which testing specification document, and belongs to which requirements. All those information, if you have along with the screenshots of the error, you can give that. Okay. Next, found by, defect found by whom, even that information also should be given. Name of the particular tester, if he has a particular ID, even that information should be provided. And status of the defect, whether, so that's what I know, that the defect we are going to study for the slide. So what are the different states, even that state information should be given later. Once defect is fixed, from another end, when defect is fixed, when developer is sending the information back to tester, he should send two more information as fixed by whom and status of the defect, whether it is closed or opened. Okay, and date of closed. So all these information are very, very important while defect is information sending to the developer and when you are receiving back to the tester. Okay, so this is about defect information should be conveyed to the developer. Correct, right? Okay. Now let us understand different stages of defect life cycle. Okay, different stages of a particular defect, how it follows from point of finding to the point of closed. Okay, see, while working on a software, you find the defect and that defect will be reported to the developer and fixed and given back to the tester, retested and closed. Okay, here we could clearly observe there are two ends, right? One is finding the defect and closing the defect. In between, a lot of other activities are involved. So in others, different stages are involved while particular defect is passing through each stages. Okay, let me describe that here. So we have two ends, correct, right? One is defect finding, another one is closed. Okay, so in between we have different stages. Some of the action will happen on particular defect. Okay, stage 1, stage 2, like this. While particular defect is passing through each stages, the defect state will be changed. Okay, the state of the defect will be keep changing. So that let us understand. Okay, fine. See, when you find the defect state is new because that is fresh defect which you have found it. Okay, when a tester finds the defect, status of the defect is new and he will report that defect to the team lead, testing team lead. Testing team lead is a person who takes the complete responsibility of his testers. He is sending the tester, a particular tester is sending the information about defect, and a team lead, he will analyze the defect and finalize whether really that is defect. Because his concern is that some wrong information should not go to the developer. Because testers could be new and freshers and less experienced people, right? So there are chances they would give some mistakes while providing the information. So that's why the in between team lead review stage is there. So he reviews the particular defect and change the status to assign. Okay, that means the tester found defect has been received and assigned to the particular developer. Okay, fine. So development team, when you receive it, the state will be open. Okay, so the state will be open. Open means for developer there is a defect, the status is open, means that is not yet fixed and closed. Correct, right? So he received it when the particular defect is came to developer bucket, right? So that status will be automatically will be changed to open. Now they have to take some other actions. What are those actions? They will go through the defect. If the defect is really not a defect, that means no way relevant to the any requirement, then they will reject it. It will go to the reject status. Okay. If the defect is not so important to fix very urgently, okay, maybe next version of the application, the defect maybe to fixed, then he will change the status to the deferred. Okay, fine. So another action is they will accept the defect. They don't even reject and refer. They will accept it. It's a defect which is specific to the particular functionality. So they have to fix it. Then what they'll do? They'll fix that and send it back to the tester. Tester, they'll receive it. So chain, they'll receive it and verified it. If the defect, a particular defect which is fixed by the developer is fixed, he will verify it and close it. Otherwise, while testing, if he found the particular defect is not fixed, he will reopen it. He will go back to the open stage. Correct, right? So, what are the stages? New, assign, open, reject, or deferred, or test, fixed it, and again test it. If it is fixed, verify and close it. If it is not fixed, it reopen. Okay, so this is very, very important. Okay, in all interviews, definitely you would expect this question. Okay. Okay, now we have understood the different stages of defect and a defect passing through different stages and changing its status. Okay, we have understood this clearly, and this concept is very, very important for the interviews. Okay, fine. Now there is the next topic is okay, severity and priority. Correct, right? Now we have understood what is defect life cycle chart, and third one is severity and priority. Let us start now. Okay. See, let us understand the English meaning of severity and priority. What is severity? Severe. So we might have heard this particular word many times, right? If something is serious, okay. For example, a person is very seriously injured or seriously attacked with some diseases, then doctor, when we go to doctor, we tell them this particular person is serious. Okay, the severity level of this particular person health is high. Correct, right? That one, nothing but severity which describes us the impact of the particular person. Same way, when you compare the severity with the defect, the defect is nothing but a deviation from the expected and actual result. Right? We are calling that as a defect in a software. So now that particular defect, how much is severe to the software? How much it is affecting the software? Nothing but customer business. Correct, right? Okay. So the definition of severity is the severity which describes the impact of the defect on the application. Okay, the severity, the level of severity describes the impact of particular defect on the software or application. Okay, for example, let us take one example. If an application or a web page crashes when a link is clicked. In this case, clicking the link by an user it must be a rare action by user, right? But when it is crashing, clicking on particular link in the, it's crashing. That means it is highly impacting of the application. So the severity here is high, but the priority is low. Okay, well, let us understand what is priority later. Here, since when a user clicks on particular link, application is getting crashed, right? Nothing but that particular action, a particular defect is severely impacting the application. Fine. So the based on the levels, based on the effectiveness giving a particular defect giving on software, the severity could be divided into 4 stages. So those are critical, major, minor, cosmetic. So these levels are divided, are set in the severity based on the impact category at which the defect should be fixed respectively. Fine? Fine. That means, so you would guess what kind of questions you would get in the interview? What is severity? What are the different levels of severity? Okay. So give an example for the severity. Fine. Now let us understand the priority. Priority is nothing but is something like which is related to the urgency. Okay, my priority, for example, my priority is learning software testing course to get the job. Okay, to get the job, there are many options for you, but your priority, learning software testing course, is high priority to get the testing job. Okay, that means it shows what is your urgency to get the job in testing. The same way, the priority which is related to defect is fixing urgency. How soon the particular defect should be fixed. Okay, same as severity, priority also has 3 different stages: high, medium, low. Based on the impact urgency at which the defect should be fixed respectively. Fine. That means when you get a defect, there are 2 categories. It belongs to 2 stages. Categories. One is it should have one severity and it should have one priority status. Correct, right? The defect, when you get the defect in a software, as soon as you get the defect in a software, that means you have to set the severity. How severely it is affecting the software and how soon that particular defect should be fixed. That is a priority you have to set. Okay. Practically, severity of the defect is set by the tester and priority of the defect fixing is set by the developer, because developer will decide when to fix. Okay, maybe so, and severity will be decided by the tester, because testers are the experts. Testers are acting like users, right? They know particular functionality how much important for the customer. For example, if you take bank application, HDFC application, right? Transferring from one account to another account is major functionality. If you are getting a defect in that particular functionality, the severity is always high, because that defect which is present in this particular scenario will be affecting customer business. Fine. And when you report that defect to the developer will set the priority. So how soon that should be fixed. Okay, maybe development point of view, now tester team is working on the build 1. So fixing this defect is planned in build 2. So fixing in build 1 is not required. So let me fix in build 2. So you can set the priority to medium, something like that. You got it right? Okay. Now, so we have understood the severity and priority. Okay. Let me give you two examples. A defect could have a very low severity but high priority. Let me repeat, a defect could have a very low severity. That means the defect is affecting the application. Severity levels is not much defect, um, impacting, but it should be fixed soon. What is that example? Let me take an example. If there is an error in the text of the logo of our ActiveTime application, correct, right? So we have an application called as ActiveTime. So this is a logo, right? Let's say ActiveTime. Instead of that, act I is missing time. Okay. So in particular build you found it. So then what is your step? It's a defect. You will write it because customer logo should be as per the requirement. There should not be even a symbol change, character change, or even whatever sample they have given. It should be same like that. Correct, right? So if there is an error in the text of the logo of ActiveTime application, its severity is low because change in logo nowhere it is affecting the business. Correct, right? It is no way affecting, it is no way related to any of the functionality. Correct, right? Since it can be fixed very easily. So it does not affect any functionality of the system. But it needs to be fixed at high priority since you do not want to ship out your product with the incorrect logo. Correct, right? So for tester, so even this particular defect should not be let it out because it's a customer logo. We should not leave this. It's a high priority. Correct? Okay. A defect could be high severity but low priority. Suppose there is a problem with create user functionality of ActiveTime. This defect has high severity because creating user functionality is the business requirement of the customer. So it is giving problem in the main functionality. So this defect has high severity since it causes the application to crash but the functionality is scheduled to release in next cycle, which makes it a low priority. So even though it is affecting for the functionality, but fixing of this particular functionality or complete development of this particular functionality is scheduled in the next release, the build 2. Then the priority is less because developer will decide I will fix this defect in the next build. Anyway, we are not releasing build 1 to the customer, so it takes some time, so build 2 I will give. That's how they will decide. So while understanding the severity and priority and understanding the right example also very important. Okay, please keep these two examples in your mind and read these two examples multiple times and understand the difference. Okay, fine. So you can read more about severity here. Okay, the different stages and meaning of that with example and even a priority also because already I have explained. So here just I described in detail for your notes kind of definitions. Okay, you can read out this, you understand it. Fine. And if you have any doubt, anyway, anytime you can write me mail or you can call me. Fine. Let me go to the next slide. So which is some of the few very important scenarios related to the severity and priority which are asked during the interviews. So in interview, you would get questions like give an example for high priority, high severity, high priority, low severity, high severity, low priority, and low priority and low severity. Correct, right? Then in such case, these examples you can give. read this, try to understand, and it's very simple. Okay, fine. Yeah, anytime you can, if you get have any doubt, anytime you can mail me, otherwise you can call me. Fine. Okay, so here I told you right very beginning only. Defect is nothing but the deviation which is from the expected to actual in the software. So that should be reported to the developer. So if you take in a big application, big companies, so more people, more testers and more developers will be working, right? So reporting through mail or reporting from Excel sheet, so it's not a good practice. So there are some softwares are available. Those softwares are Quality Controller. It's a HP product, HP QC. There is another one is Bugzilla, Rally. There are many softwares are available, so that can be used. So here just I have given one sample of a software how to have defect. So we have seen that we have seen there, right? So here what are the information we have to give to the developer. So this is information, right? So if you are using a software, so there are already predefined information will be there that you have to fill in. Okay, here assign to, for whom you are assigning this, you can mention that here. And summary, if you get a defect related to login, the login page is not displayed while entering particular username and password, you can mention that. Okay, for example, if you get create user is not able to create. Okay, so that kind of a short note you can give in the summary what exactly is that. And these information assigned to category, detected in version, estimated fixed time. Anyway, so all these examples, options we'll be learning while learning QC. Okay, I'll explain this in detail in QC. So just I have given this here just to understand there is a software to manage the defect. Okay, so in interview you would get questions like what is the defect management? Defect management, nothing but maintaining the defects, reporting the defect and maintaining it, and systematically. Nothing but raising the defect, reporting the defect to the developer, and receiving the defect and fixing them and closing them systematically. Means using a particular system is called as defect management system. Different companies will be having different process to manage the defects. Okay, so this is all about bug life cycle. Okay, so this what we have learned now, the basic information of the bug, defect life cycle, and definition of the defect, life cycle chart, severity, priority. This is more than enough to understand the basic process or basic concept of defect life cycle. Okay, fine. So let us see now some of the very important interview questions on defect reporting. So except these questions, you never get any other question because most of the questions have been covered here. What is defect in software testing? Differentiate defect, error and failures. Okay, so this I haven't explained, right? What is defect? The defect is nothing but a deviation from the expected to actual. So defect, if you are testing a software, okay, if a tester finds a deviation from the expected to actual, then that we call as defect. What is error? Error is related to development. Well, when developer is working on particular piece of code, if a particular line of code is not working, then you'll get an error. So that we call as error. The error is related to developer. Defect is related to tester. Failure. The failure is related to a customer. When customer is working on software in the real time, if something is not working, so that particular functionality will get failed. They call it as failure. Means the deviation from the expected to actual in different places. If it is happening in testing team, we call it as defect. If it is happening in the development team, we call it as error. If it is happening in customer place, we call it as failure. Give a sample defect report template. We have seen that already, so this you can explain that. What is producible defect? Same, the defect which you can produce continuously, reproduce, it's called a producible defect. What is not reproducible defect? Defect you cannot reproduce more than one time. So I told you, right? Inconsistent defect, we call it as that also called as not producible defect. What are the different types of states of defects? We have seen that. Explain about defect life cycle. Yes, you can explain about this. Okay. What is defect management? I explained to you just now. What is defect management tool? I told you QC, quality controller. It's a HP product. Bugzero, Bugzilla, Rally. These are different tool names. Okay, so you can name some name, tool name. What is defect masking? This is not required. What is defect based test design techniques? Even this is not required. Okay, and this is not required. So those are the points which are related to particular thing. Anyway, okay, these questions are enough to crack the basic interview. Okay, so this at this stage, so this is the end of defect life cycle. Okay, if you have any doubts and clarification, you can mail me at harijavaexpert@gmail.com, and you can call me at this number 9901974731 anytime. Thank you.